I had this conversation with my friend the other day about attractiveness and perceptions of attractiveness, and I found it to be incredibly insightful. And I thought that because so much of my audience is composed of young women, that I would share those thoughts here too in case it helps anybody else. Basically, it boiled down to this. My life improved drastically the day that I decided that I no longer needed to be attractive. This is the moment where I'm going to offer a million caveats because I don't want people to think that I'm saying something that I'm not. First of all, this has nothing to do with anything related to beautification, fashion, having a sense of style, hairstyling, makeup. Those are incredible art forms that I wish I knew more about. And I think exist in a totally different conversation to what I'm talking about. And also, this is not to offer any judgment at all on the experience of beautifying yourself and bettering your appearance. Obviously, I'm wearing makeup. Obviously, I have this little headband, and it brings me a lot of joy to look in the mirror and be like, oh my gosh, I did that. I think it looks great. This has nothing to do with that. I am talking about the baseline that we all are born with. A lump of clay that we are given that then we can mold a little bit. But basically, like, what God gave us, these eyes, this nose, these cheekbones, like this is what I'm working with, right? Like I can't control much about this. Finally, this is also not in any way related to pretty privilege, which 100% are real things and impact people's lives. This is more about my personal aspirations about what I want to be in life. With all that being said, the conversation was about how my life improved tenfold the day that I realized that I didn't need to be attractive. I can't tell you the exact moment when it clicked for me. I think it was sometime around high school, but I can tell you that it happened after I started thinking a lot about the ephemeral quality of beauty, the fact that beauty completely fades for each and every one of us. There is nobody in the world who will be conventionally attractive for the entirety of their life. There will be a finite moment in your life where you are no longer seen that way by other people. And it just seems so dark and dystopian to me that so many of us put so much value on something that can be taken away in an instant, and something to some level that we have no control over. Once that clicked for me, I realized that there were so many other things that I wanted to be in life that were so much more important to me than being attractive. I wanted to be smart. I wanted to be kind. I wanted to be funny sometimes. I wanted to have something interesting to say in conversations. And to me, those were qualities that actually spoke to who I was as a person more than like the curvature of my cheekbones or the size of my eyes. And secondly, those were things that nobody could ever take away from me, things that I could actually control and develop about myself. I think part of it does stem a little bit from the way that I grew up. I'm gonna offer some photographic evidence here. I was like a conventionally capital U ugly child. Picture one, if you don't believe me with that, here's picture two. I look at those pictures and I'm like, oh my God, you were such a cute kid. The world did not think so. I was bullied relentlessly for the way that I looked. But I still felt like a person. I was interested in so many other things beyond the way that I looked. And I think that helped clarify these thoughts for me later in my life. Once that moment of acute clarity came in my young adult life, everything got better for me. It used to be the case that I would go down these rabbit holes of comparison for women that I perceived to be very beautiful, very attractive. I would look at their pictures and I would look at mine and I would feel this dark sense of helplessness. I would be like, there's very little that I can do. There's only so much I can control, and it was only negative. But to all of these other qualities, once I started to feel insecure about them, or I would compare myself to other people that I perceived to have these qualities, there was something I could do about it. If I felt like I wasn't as smart as I wanted to be, I could read a book. I could enroll in a course online. I could study for a test. And once I bettered myself in those fundamental ways, those skills would stick with me for the rest of my life. They would not fade the way that beauty ultimately fades for each and every one of us. I started to realize that when people in the world try to bring other people down, the first thing that they go for is physical appearance. And it totally just lost its power over me. If somebody was trying to be negative toward me and they said something about the way I looked, I just remember being like, okay, I'm ugly. So look at all these other things that I am. Like, what are you gonna say about that? You know what I mean? And it also bettered everything about my interpersonal relationships, specifically my romantic ones. Because once I stopped placing so much value on my attractiveness, I stopped placing value on attractiveness for other people too. Obviously, I'm talking about conventional attractiveness because it's still important to me that I'm attracted to people that I'm dating, of course. But to me, there's so many other elements of attraction beyond physical appearance. There's personality, there's sense of humor, there's intelligence, there's just an innate sense of compatibility that you feel with somebody. And I was meeting more interesting people and I was also meeting and dating people who cared less about attractiveness in their partners. So the relationships that I was getting into were way more meaningful and deeper. It was just better. Everything was better. Everything made so much more sense to me. And I know that this is so much easier said than done. I know that there are so many social forces out there that make it feel like being beautiful is like the most important thing that you can be as a woman. And I know this sounds very cliche and potentially very common sense, but in case you need somebody to tell you, please let me be the one to tell you. You are so much more than the way you look. It is the least interesting thing about you. I'm gonna say it again. The way you look is the least interesting thing about you. Once I internalized that, my self-worth became so much stronger, and all I can hope for is that a couple of you watch this video and you realize that you are so much more than what you think you are, because I really needed to know that when I was younger. Anyway, I'm getting off my soapbox, but I love you guys so much, and if you ever need somebody to remind you of these fundamental truths, you know who to come to.